The Mystery on the Ocean Star. Chapter 1. A Night to Remember. It was a beautiful evening on the Ocean Star, a luxury cruise ship sailing across the deep blue sea. The passengers were enjoying their vacation, eating delicious food, dancing to live music, and watching the sunset from the deck. The air was filled with laughter, the sound of clinking glasses, and the faint melody of a jazz band playing in the background. Everything seemed perfect. But then something terrible happened. Mr. James Carter, a rich businessman, was found dead in his cabin. His body was on the floor, and there was a small knife beside him. The door was locked from the inside. The room was untouched, with no signs of a struggle. Who could have done this? And how? Chapter 2. The Detective on Vacation. Detective Emma Lewis was on board. She was on vacation, hoping to relax and escape the stress of her work. But now she had a case to solve. She examined the body carefully. There was no blood. The knife was clean. James Carter's face looked strange, as if he had been shocked or scared before he died. His eyes were wide open, and his hands were clenched tightly. Emma asked the ship's doctor, Dr. Wilson, to check the body. "No wounds," said Dr. Wilson, frowning. "I think he was poisoned, but I need more time to be sure." Emma nodded. "I must find out who did this." She examined the room further. The glass on the bedside table was empty, but there was a faint smell of almonds in the air. Poison, she thought. Chapter 3. The Suspects. Emma started questioning the people who had seen James Carter last. First, she talked to his assistant, Michael. Michael looked nervous, constantly fidgeting with his fingers. Mr. Carter was very rich, but he had many enemies, Michael said. People did not like his business deals. He was also rude to the staff. Maybe someone wanted revenge. Emma asked, "Where were you last night?" "I was in my cabin sleeping," Michael answered quickly, avoiding eye contact. Next, Emma spoke to Mrs. Carter, James's wife. She was crying, but there was something off about her tears. Were they real or just for show? "My husband was not a kind man," she said. "But I didn't want him dead. We were having dinner together, and then he went to his room. I stayed in the dining hall with my friend Laura." Emma wrote that down. Who else had a problem with Mr. Carter? "His business partner, Mr. Brown," Mrs. Carter said. "They had a big fight yesterday. James wanted to take all the money from their company. Mr. Brown was very angry." Chapter 4. Following the Clues. Emma found Mr. Brown on the deck, looking at the ocean. His face was calm, but his hands were gripping the railing tightly. "Mr. Brown, where were you last night?" she asked. "I was in the casino," he said. "Many people saw me there." "Yes, I was angry, but I didn't kill him." Emma continued her investigation. She checked security cameras. She asked the ship's crew about Mr. Carter's behavior. She looked at his phone and messages. Then she discovered something strange. Mr. Carter had received a drink before going to his room. The drink was sent from the bar. The bartender, Tom, gave it to him. "Tom, who ordered that drink?" Emma asked. Tom hesitated, wiping his hands nervously on a towel. "It was Mrs. Carter. She told me to send it to her husband." Chapter 5. The Truth Comes Out. Emma's eyes narrowed. She went to find Mrs. Carter again. "Mrs. Carter, did you order a drink for your husband?" she asked. Mrs. Carter's face turned pale. I just wanted to help him relax. He was always stressed." "The drink was poisoned," Emma said firmly. "And the poison smelled like almonds." Mrs. Carter started shaking. "No, I didn't know. It was Laura. She told me to do it." Laura, Mrs. Carter's friend, was called to talk. She looked calm, almost too calm. "Mrs. Carter, don't lie," Laura said. "You wanted him dead. You were tired of him. You planned everything." Mrs. Carter started crying. "Yes, I did it. He was a terrible man. He made my life a nightmare. I only wanted to be free." Emma looked at her closely. Something still didn't add up. "And Laura, why were you so eager to blame her?" Emma asked. Laura's face twitched. "What? What do you mean?" "I checked the security footage," Emma said. "You were the one who handed the drink to the bartender, not Mrs. Carter. You framed her." Laura's calm expression cracked. She tried to run, but 2 security guards stopped her. "I had to do it," Laura screamed. "He destroyed my family's business. He ruined everything." Chapter 6. Justice at Sea. Emma looked at her sadly. Murder is not the answer. Now, you must face justice. Mrs. Carter collapsed into a chair, shocked that she had been set up. Laura was taken away by the ship's security. The case was solved. The cruise continued, but now with a heavy heart. Detective Emma Lewis had finished her job. The Ocean Star would never forget that mysterious night on the sea.